One.
Good morning. It's Ladena Boo from Stockton, Missouri, the Independence Church. And my guest today is Matt Pearson,
Hello.
Reverend Matt Pearson. Actually,
Hello.
I
Hello.
should
Hello.
give you your title, huh?
I didn't I didn't get licensed or ordained to be called a reverend. It does come with the license, I guess, but I never really, I go by Pastor Matt on my Facebook page, but that's so people, there's a lot of Matt Pearsons out there, believe it or not.
Yep. I don't have that problem. I haven't met another Ladena Boo. So,
Yeah. Cause if there was more than one, you'd have to be Ladina Boo Hoo.
oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'd cry. So,
Wah, wah. Sorry.
anyway, we're going to talk about dating.
Dating, not
Dating.
us dating each other.
No,
Let's get that
I've
clear
got
up.
someone at home already. Okay, he's
Uh,
falling apart, but he's still mine.
I'm not, I'm not a professional dater. I'm not good at it. I've tried recently here to try that Facebook dating app thing, and it just like we were talking about before the show, dating takes a lot of work.
It does.
Being with somebody takes a lot of work. Marriages take a lot of work.
Yeah, and if you don't work at it, it's not going to work. Period.
Right. And yeah, it's I've tried here lately, and it just doesn't. It's so hard for me because I'm sorry, I'm getting ready to pull up on our Facebook in case people have any comments. I want to be able to answer them if they ask. All right, so rate post. All right.
So you've actually used a couple of the dating sites and so forth, and I know my aunt married a man she met on AOL Love.
Oh boy, that takes me back.
Yeah, AOL Love, that was years ago, and it's worked out well for her. But I found that a lot of times the people on those dating sites are not going to tell you who they really are and what's going on with their lives, are they?
No, they're not. And that's one thing I've noticed is no matter who you're dating, when you first start dating, you're always someone else than who you really are.
Yeah.
And most men start dating a woman hoping that she doesn't change. And, I found that a lot of women start, and I'm not saying all women are like this. I'm just saying, in my experience with the people that I've been around, they get with you hoping that you will change.
Right.
Double standards all around, and 9 times out of 10, man, you end up changing after a while.
Yeah, that change often destroys.
Joe Wolf, hello. Yeah, we're talking about dating today, Joe. In case you're wondering, it's been a while since these folks have seen me on the air. Because I used to do a show every single morning, Monday through Friday, and that's how we
The
did
morning drive.
The morning drive with Matt and Jay. We have over 300 episodes on our YouTube channel.
Awesome.
So that's a lot.
Yeah. You get your face out there. You can get more dates if you just replay those all the time, right?
It would be fun to rebroadcast. I do rebroadcast them sometimes. Some that have taken, that have. Sorry about that. That have. My brain just kind of farted. Just kind of lost myself there for a second. Oh yeah. Well, see, there you go. Sometimes your brain's like, nope, I quit. And that happens a lot in dating too. And a book that I would recommend everybody read, 5 Love Languages. They've got one for each situation. They've got one for your kids, stepkids, teenagers, work people, friendships, and romantic relationships. And talked about we all have a certain way that our love tank gets filled, like physical touch, quality time,
conversation,
words of affirmation, acts of service, and gift giving. So like I ask people, like when I'm getting ready to marry somebody, I always have to meet with them first, obviously, because I want to make sure that they know what they're getting into first of all, and that they're in the right state of mind, and it's not on a whim. Because if it is on a whim, then it's like if they don't know each other for very long, I won't do it. I made that mistake one time, and that's the only couple that I've ever married that have gotten divorced.
Yeah, that's one of the things when I marry somebody, it's like, okay, when I do this, I expect you to stay married for
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, because this is not a light. I mean, it's a heavy decision to get married.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, if you haven't known each other more than a month, or if you've just known each other a little over a month, I would recommend waiting.
Right.
And I learned that so far I've only had one couple get a divorce of the
Hmm.
many marriages that I've officiated. So you know, don't rush if you're going to be together forever. If
Uh,
you want to be together forever, what are you rushing for?
yeah. Now you've been married once,
Twice.
twice. Yeah.
Yep.
Did you know either of them for very long before you got married?
Yeah, my second wife, we dated on and off for 2 years.
Hmm.
And, you know, I honestly had no doubts whatsoever going into that marriage.
Right.
And it turned out that she's a very good actor.
Hmm.
And she also is a self saboteur. Like, you know, a lot of us do that. We sabotage ourselves,
Right.
whether intentionally or unintentionally. So I think some people are in love with the idea of getting married
Yeah.
and the idea of having a family.
And the idea of being in love, you think
But
you're in love.
once they get married, they're like, okay, well, I've achieved that. Now what? Well, once you lose that obsession stage, which
Mhm.
is usually between 6 months to 2 years from whenever you guys start dating, once that goes away, your brain is not releasing all those chemicals into your body anymore. You have to make a decision to love somebody,
Mhm.
not just, you know, not just say, oh, the feeling's gone. I don't love them anymore. All right.
Yeah,
Well, let's move on
that
to the next.
that dopamine level's gonna level off, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's definitely going to plateau.
Yeah.
We got a couple more people watching. Nice.
Cool.
It definitely plateaus. And I, the main thing that I would say, the best dating advice I could give, and I put this on my profile on Facebook, was honesty. True honesty is a real time saver.
It is.
You know, there is one woman in my life that I can totally be 100% without a doubt myself, which is in regards to being around the opposite sex. Uh, and it's not intentional that, I mean, we hide certain aspects of ourselves
We always do.
whenever we're dating somebody because like, oh, I don't know if I want them to see that part of me just yet. I need to get to know them a little better because I'm a bit immature sometimes, and I accept that, and I actually think it's part of who I am, and I'm proud of it.
Hmm.
You know, I'm 41 years old, almost 42. I'm in relatively best shape of my life. Since my early 20s anyways,
Right.
the best shape. So and see there my brain goes just but we hide these certain things about ourselves, and once you do unveil that part of you, like my being immature, I'll tell inappropriate, like timed
Hmm.
jokes.
Right.
You know, like walking into a funeral home, oh man, it's dead in here. Not like I've never actually done that, but that's a good example of the kind of timing that I have.
Yeah.
I think there's actually a psychological disorder. It's called Witzel shoot or something like that. It could be caused by complex trauma early in your life or things like that that causes you to tell poorly timed jokes,
Hmm.
inappropriate jokes
I do that.
at inappropriate times.
Yeah.
You know, like when someone's having a serious conversation with, I'm kind of taking over your show here.
Go for it.
When someone's having a serious conversation with me, it's if it's too heavy, I'll joke to lighten it.
Hmm.
I'm non-confrontational. I don't like fighting.
Oh,
Period.
I despise fighting.
I don't get mad
I've
very
got
often.
myself into a lot of situations in my dating life
Mm.
where I dealt with people that I thought were sweethearts. I mean, they opened my door, they talked nice to me, and they did everything. And then all of a sudden, after a little bit of time, they turn into
Mm.
some monster that I could not have ever imagined.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, and that there are people that are really good at hiding it from you.
Hmm.
My last wife, my second wife, and probably the last wife I'll ever have. I don't say that definitively. Like that's not a finality for me. I she was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Gaslighty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you get married, you're real excited, you're in your new place. We were staying in a 35-foot Winnebago. We were saving up for a house.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's really not a lot of places to look in there, right? It's
Right.
not very huge. And out of nowhere, we're freshly married. Out of nowhere, she just has a problem with me looking at her. It's like, okay. And I, right before she said that to me, right before she blew up on me with that, I was thinking about how blessed I am to have this woman in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then she snapped at me. After that, it progressively got worse. And if somebody does this to you, it's abuse. We did kind of end up talking about this
Yeah,
the
we
last
did.
time.
Uh-huh.
Abusive relationships. It's where they say, well, if you bring it up
Mm-hmm.
to them and they say, well, I don't feel that way. That must be you doing that. You're doing that yourself.
Right.
That's called gaslighting, and it's abusive.
Mm-hmm.
We were also talking about kids last time. It was 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
About people, divorcees, using their kids against each other, that kind of thing. But
Yeah. Do not use children as a weapon.
no,
Dating or marriage, do not use your children as a weapon or some tool to get what you want.
one of my best friends, if I were to ever get married again, it would probably it would be with her.
Mm-hmm.
We've known each other since we were kids, so she knows the real me, the immature. I like to laugh, I like to joke, but when she's in the dating scene, she tells everybody right up front, you're not going to meet my kids for
Right.
at least 2 years.
Right.
Period. You're not going to come over to my house. If my kids aren't there for the weekend, maybe so. But if they're there, you will not be there. She says on Sundays, I spend time with my kids. We make a day of it. I don't answer the phone on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
Those are for herself and her kids.
Right.
And some people don't like that. A lot of people don't like that, actually. They're like, whoa, wait, are you putting on these restrictions right out the gate? No, this is a woman who has been through it. She knows how people are, and she does not want to subject her kids to
Mm-hmm.
any male.
Yeah, I did that. Whenever I got divorced, it was a very abusive man. I mean, I had broken ribs and broken arms and everything else through that relationship. But whenever he and I finally divorced, I refused to date anybody for 8 years. I had to work on myself. I had to get myself
It's very
over
important.
how I put myself out there. What did I do to exacerbate the situation? And then when I started dating, it's like, no, you're not meeting my kids. Nobody can meet my kids
Right.
unless I think it's going to be a long-term, everlasting relationship.
Yeah, and that's good. I think all parents, when they're on the dating market, should not let someone meet their kids until they're sure. And that's because it confuses them.
Mm-hmm.
It gets their hopes up. But then if that person leaves, next thing you know, you've got children with abandonment issues.
Right.
That are doubting themselves. Is this why mom's not happy? Because of me?
And then it moves on and it gives them complex for the rest of their life.
Yeah. So you're starting a snowball down the hill that you won't be able to stop eventually. So think of your kids first and then date.
Right.
Kids, then date. Period.
Yeah, your kids should always come first, no matter what.
Because I know my last wife, my kids got kind of attached to her because before we got married, she was sending my boys text messages in the morning just saying, hey, I love you, God bless you, I'm praying for you, that kind of thing. And she made it, it happened every single day, both of my sons. And after we got married and stuff, she stopped doing that, and they were worried about it. And the next thing you know, 6 months later, she leaves me, we're divorced, and my kids feel abandoned.
Right. They get attached to people very quickly, especially the real little kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They immediately latch onto you, and this is going to be our family. This is so much fun.
Now, if your kids are adults, that's a different story.
Yeah. When your kids are adult,
they can go out on dates with you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe somebody just tried to set me up on a date.
Yes, that's how we got here. He tried
Oh
to
my
get set
goodness!
up on a date.
It's like,
this
wow.
morning.
No, I was thinking about relationships before that, but then,
We talk about relationships quite a bit when we come in here.
here we go. Mo Crete. That would be Pastor Paul from Northwest Church. When a dude is trying to win a woman's heart, he studies her. He learns what she likes and doesn't like, and he looks for the mystery. But after he wins her heart, he usually stops learning and discovering, and she seems less interesting, and that's when the drift comes. It's very true.
Very true.
Very
Yes.
true.
You think you know one person,
Thank you, Pastor.
and then they just kind of fall off and become something else over the years. They get set in their ways and forget to think about how much fun they had. What brought them together in the first place?
Right. Yeah.
There was something there that tugged at your heart and your mind and your soul and made you want to be with this individual, more than an hour a week or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And you've got to remember where that came from and go back and find it. You've got to keep the happiness going. You got to keep the
You got to make a decision.
Yeah.
To continue on.
We,
Right.
we all grow and we all change.
Yeah.
You cannot think, I've been married 10 years and she's not the way she was whenever I married her. And so it's time to leave.
I know that if each of you, and I always point this out to the people that I marry, I do the triangle. You know the triangle?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good illustration. Here's you on one side at the bottom of the triangle, and here's her on the other side, or vice versa, whichever one you're talking to. And then God's got to be at the top.
That's right.
And the closer you each get to God individually, the closer you will come to each other.
Right.
But it's got to be God first. And that's another thing that I will not relent as far as my God is more important to me than anybody else.
Right.
And, I want to find a woman who loves Jesus more than she loves me. Yeah. That's important. Yeah. So,
and you figured out that, we have our Godhead. We have God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit.
Right.
We get into relationships, and you've got a husband and a wife and children, or, male, female children.
Yeah.
And even in a dating relationship, somebody's going to have kids. Our government is set up that way. We've got,
especially at my age,
there.
Everyone's got kids. Most of them are grown, so that's good. But
yeah, it does make a difference when they're grown. When my kids were little, none of you come around. Yeah,
because all the damage is already done. What damage can be done in that aspect is usually already done at that point. So, and I pray that doesn't happen.
When my kids were little, it's like, okay, I've already destroyed their happiness because I was married to somebody and they didn't know what was going on behind closed doors. And so I end up divorcing this man, and they're like, okay, what happened and why doesn't he come around anymore? Why doesn't he call?
Right.
And if you have been dating someone and the two of you have children together, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't abandon your children. They, the Lord gave them to you, and you need to protect them and keep them. And you have to find some way to co-parent with your ex.
Oh, that's probably me. Got that taken care of. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
It's about understanding them. The Bible says, dwell with them with understanding. That's tough because most of us men are selfish and not willing to put in the work. That is so true, Pastor. That is so true. Like we said earlier, relationships are hard work.
Even friendships, business relationships, dating relationships, marriages, there is nothing easy. And, so many people think, oh, I'm going to be a Christian and life is going to get so much easier.
No, it gets harder.
It's harder. Okay. It's harder.
Because all of a sudden you're on the devil's radar. That's somebody told a story about a sheepdog, right? Protects its flock with its life, right? And then whenever the sun goes down, it'll go to another flock and kill those sheep. So if you're part of the enemy's flock, he's not going to mess with you, really.
Right.
Because, I mean, let's face it, we mess our lives up just fine without his help.
We have absolutely no problem with that portion. No.
Yeah, we if the enemy is whispering in your ear trying to get you to do the wrong thing, is usually it's majority of it's us and our wicked sinful nature.
Yeah.
So
and if somebody comes up and wants to ask you for a date, and you've seen them at church and everything, and they profess to be a Christian, you watched them get baptized.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they have actually received the Holy Spirit and understand the walk of a Christian. So you have to understand, Christians are people too. Okay, we make mistakes.
Yeah.
We hurt
to expect
people.
us to be perfect is not fair.
No,
that's not fair to us. And if we expect others to be perfect, that's not fair to them. We should strive for perfection. We should strive to be like Christ, knowing good and well that we will not be able to, but that should be our goal.
Right. And, we need to treat people the way Christ did. I mean, he didn't turn his back on lepers. He didn't turn his back on thieves or anybody like that. Don't turn your back on people.
Nope. Love people.
Love people. It's love and forgiveness if they've hurt you. You don't have to forget what they did.
No.
But you have to forgive.
Yeah, I've heard people say that. Doesn't it say forgive and forget? Well, it says to forgive.
That's right.
It doesn't really, as far as I've seen, I have not seen anything where it says that we are required to forget. Because otherwise, if we forget, how do we learn our lesson?
Right. If you get into a relationship with someone and then that falls apart and you turn around and you get in a relationship with somebody just the same, stop dating until you work on yourself, because there's an issue there. I used to date a lot of people that it seemed like they would beat me up or whatever the case may be. And it's like, okay, I finally figured out that I learned that behavior from growing up, where you were hit a lot. I was hit a lot and I was beaten with belts a lot and so forth. And I think I finally and then the worst beating of my life, I passed out on the floor, had to go to the emergency room. I had to call somebody, take me to the emergency room, and I snuck out a basement window. And, it got to the point where it's like, I didn't deserve that. But I thought I did because it was my parents who would beat me and then say, I love you. We can't take you to the hospital, but we love you, but we can't take you to the hospital because somebody will be arrested.
Yeah. Yeah, because nurses and hospital workers are court-mandated reporters. I think we should all be court-mandated reporters.
Pastors are court-mandated
yes,
reporters.
Absolutely. If we think somebody is being abused in any way like that, we are required by law to let the state know, right?
Right.
I mean, morally speaking, we're morally obligated to be reported, to report.
Right.
I mean, I know that I'm sure people saw some of the abuse that happened to my family whenever we were younger and didn't say anything about it.
Yeah, they were very quiet about it. And, when I was younger, I'm older than you. When I was younger, if somebody was beating on someone, they didn't necessarily call the police, but the neighbors would go talk to them.
Yeah.
When it's leaking out into the street, the neighbors are going to know what's going on, and somebody's going to say something.
Yeah.
Or attempt to protect children at least.
Another thing relationship-wise, my son, he's young, and he's, how that is, young people in relationships. And he was telling me one time, he's like, no, we never fight. We've never fought. I don't think we ever will. I said, well, don't set yourself up for failure, because if you are not arguing from time to time, then somebody is not speaking their mind or telling stuff that they should be saying.
Yeah.
Again,
you're not
honesty.
growing your relationship.
Honesty is a real time saver. If you're honest with people up front, number one, you don't have to remember what you've said. Number two, if they're doing something that gets on your nerves, I mean, let's face it, we all do something that gets on someone else's nerves at one point in time or the other. If you speak about it as soon as it happens, number one, you're not super angry about it. Whereas if you don't tell them right away, the more they do that gets on your nerves, and this is after all those chemicals in your brain are gone. Because in the first couple, when you're first getting to know somebody, and like Pastor said, when you were studying your significant other, finding out their likes and dislikes and stuff like that, you're literally feel high whenever you're around this person. Not like go and do drugs high, but you'll put up with more than what you normally would because of the dopamine and the what do they call that? The serotonin and all that stuff that make you just feel good when you're around that person. When that goes away, you won't put up with near as much.
Right. And you have to remember their likes and dislikes, and you also have to remember to make time, just straight time with your partner.
Yeah.
Bill and I, we'd have issues once in a while whenever my children first put me on Facebook. Social media is horrible. Okay.
It is.
It is, and people jump to conclusions because you cannot fully have a conversation through text messaging, and carry on a relationship. You can't have a relationship through texting and messenger. Okay.
No.
You're going to have to talk to the person, see the person, touch the person. But I got to the point where it's like, okay, 8:00 every night, my phone goes on do not disturb, and I don't pick it up.
I should start doing that. I should start doing that.
Because and that was the biggest thing, and that helped our relationship a lot because from 8:00 in the evening on, that's our time. We watch a movie, we visit, we talk about whatever's going on.
Yep.
We set aside our time and don't let anything break into that.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems I'm having relationship wise is I can't seem to make time for one. And that's not fair to those people that I've dated recently. And, that's just part of who I am right now.
Right.
That's why I'm not dating anybody.
Yeah. You extend yourself out to a lot of things that you need to do personally.
Yeah.
You've come to the point where you have to work on you to get into anything else.
Yeah.
You've gone through 2 marriages. Your father just died, within
about
the last
a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
there's a lot of changes going on in my life. Right.
And when you're going through a lot of changes like that, unless the person you're dating is right there by your side, standing with you, don't get into a new relationship when your life is in an uproar.
Yeah, because you have to, whenever you have significant changes in your life like that. Hi, Melvin. When you go through tragedies, you become a different person.
That's right.
You have to get to know yourself as this person without that person in your life. With Dad. Dad was so ingrained in my life, and talked to him every single day, multiple times a day, saw him every single day, multiple times a day. He was a fixture in my life.
Right.
And then now he's not here. And the best way I explain it to people is, I wear this ring right here. This was one of his wedding rings. But, you wear a ring for so long, you don't really, you don't feel it.
Right.
You don't feel it because it becomes a part of you. When you take that off and you're not wearing it, you can feel its absence. And that's how it is whenever you lose somebody that is that close to you, and you become a different person. Like, maybe not very different. Like, fundamentally, you're the same, but there's new aspects about you that you've got to get to know.
My son was that way. I lost my son. He just turned 40. Well, he's about to turn 43, and had a massive heart attack and died. My son and I were very close. We talked every day. We laughed and we joked. He'd come down. He'd spend his vacations at my house. It's like, I'm going to go see my mama. And, whenever, even to this day, and he died in 2019, I still want to pick up the phone and call him. And whenever that happens, it just kind of breaks my heart again. It's like, I can't do that. And then, a couple of weeks ago, I lost another one of the boys that called me mama. And, not being able to reach out and talk to them whenever I want to just really disturbs me.
Yeah. It's hard.
And it's hard to, explain to your significant other what the issue is.
Yeah.
If you can go through that time, and be able to come out the other side feeling good, that's a major
Well, if you're seeing
accomplishment.
somebody and you're with somebody before the tragedy happens, you both go through that at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So you both you grieve together and you rejoice together through that whole entire thing. So they change along with you,
Right.
and they know. So it happens so organically if it's the right person that you both change simultaneously,
Right.
and don't really need to get to know yourself like you. It's really hard to explain, I guess.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was, it's hard to understand that, yeah, I'm a mom, and that was a big, big thing in my life.
Brittany Moore says having support helps.
And,
True.
Whenever my son died, it's like, I don't know where to get my support because he was my support. He was
my dad was mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you sit around all day long going, well, what would Chris say? Well,
yeah. Well, I mean, I've had that, and it still happens to me, where I'll something will happen in my life, or good or bad, and my instinct is to pick up the phone and call Dad and tell him.
Mm-hmm.
And I pick up the phone, and I'm like, oh wait, I can't call Dad.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to.
You can't call him for dating advice either.
No. And Dad was always a straight shooter when it came to dating advice too. Yep. And my first wife, he's like, I should have listened to him, and he was like, that woman's bad news. That's all he said, and I should have listened, but that's all. It's
hindsight is always 20/20.
Yeah, hindsight's always 20/20, and we're blinded in this situation. People say love blinds us, and it doesn't blind us per se, but just makes us not care about the red flags.
It puts blinders on us into the things that could hurt us.
All the red flags, we're sitting there trying to color them purple. Oh, that's not red. See, that's more of a purple hue. Yeah, it'll be all right. It won't be red it's not fully red.
And then 6 months later, it's fully red.
Yeah. Then 6 months later, it's fully red, and you're still trying to explain why it turned red. Well, I think it has to do with the sun or something. That's it can't be red for that reason.
But we all have to date if we want to get married. If we want to have a relationship, we're going to date. I guess some people get married on first sight. Some of those people that they all meet in a big room and they all get married at the same time. But personally, I want to know who I'm getting involved with. And
you got to know who you're getting involved with.
And you had mentioned previously that before the show about a girl running a background check on you before she dated you. Personally, I think it's a good idea.
It is a good idea.
Run a background check.
Had it not been for that, I wouldn't have known about that that bench warrant that I had. Yeah, this was years and years ago, by the way. And it was just a municipal warrant. Mm-hmm. But if had it not been for her doing that background check, I wouldn't have known because I didn't think anything of it. It was just one of those things.
I had a young lady who, she's actually the mother of my friend's twin grandchildren. And she got married to a man. He treated her like gold. I mean, she moved to Florida. She had a pool in her house. She had all this other stuff going on and everything. And then through his actions, because she did not do a background check, okay? She walked in and he was molesting their child.
Oh my goodness.
And then she got to looking, and it's like, okay, he was a registered sex offender, and she never knew it. He'd been to prison. He's back in prison now for molesting their child. But, if you meet somebody...
Aren't they required by law to tell somebody that? I think they're required by law.
Yeah. And he was unregistered. He was supposed to be registered, but whenever he started dating her, he never went back to re-up his registration when they moved. And so, he's floating around. Nobody knows where he's at. So...
Oh, boy.
this world is crazy and it's scary and it's dangerous. Um, and so, you need to protect yourself and your own children if you've had children with a prior relationship and so forth. I see nothing wrong with doing a background check or
There's
checking the courts.
absolutely nothing wrong with it. And if that person gets upset that you did a background check, then there's probably a reason.
Right.
I've always thank you, Brandy. You too. She says y'all have a blessed day.
Thank you, Brandy.
She says talking about it to friends and letting it out also helps. She says, but yeah, that's where was I going with that? What was I saying?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing a background check.
No,
You got to make sure. I mean, you're not just protecting yourself; you're protecting the other people in your life too. And if that person does get mad, then they're hiding something.
right.
It's like, oh, well, you don't trust me? Well, no, quite frankly, I don't know you enough yet.
Yeah. You
know,
don't know.
And don't be afraid to tell them that. If they say, why did you do background check? Well, because I don't know you. And I haven't known you long enough for there to be any trust.
Right.
There's no mistrust. Don't get it twisted. That's not a sign of mistrust.
Right. It's a sign
it's a lack of trust. Yeah.
Protecting yourself.
Yeah.
Even people who profess to be Christian, I'm not.
Trust is earned. It's not just given.
Yeah. You have to understand that even if they're on a Christian website, that doesn't mean that they're a Christian.
Right. If there's a lot of predators out there.
There's a lot of people on those dating sites that are actually married, and so forth. So no matter what you're doing, if you're going to use the internet for meeting someone, then yeah, definitely do a background check.
Yeah, I've always had a thing about internet dating. My saying used to be, if they can't find somebody in a real life, just in social daily life, they probably shouldn't be dating at all. But some people are nervous in person and are better behind a keyboard, can actually say things that they wouldn't normally say in a social environment. I get that. So, I mean, it's hit and miss. I've known a couple people that met on the internet and got married and stayed married and are still married to this day. But
I've also seen a lot of people who met somebody on the internet, gave up their entire life, went over there with that person and
lost everything,
broke their spirit, broke their life.
Yep. I've known people like that too.
So you've really got to be careful. Even if you're meeting them face to face, be careful.
Just make sure you don't put yourself in a situation where they have control over you in a way that if you are not with them, then you have nowhere else to go.
Right.
So don't burn bridges to go be with somebody that you met on the internet. Don't, get to know them first.
Spend a lot of time getting to know them.
Lot. And if I would recommend not doing a long distance thing at all.
Right.
If somebody lives too far away, don't even try it.
It was too difficult years ago when we didn't have the internet.
Right.
Telephones only. You can't look at a person's face. You can't understand their what's going on in their brain. I like to look at somebody when I'm talking to them.
Yeah. Body language tells you a lot about a person. You can tell if they're lying. You can tell if they're uncomfortable. You can tell. Like we had somebody that was trying to set me up a little while ago. And she had her friend on speakerphone that she was trying to set me up with. I said, I just wanted to ask if it's okay. And she put her on the spot. If it's okay to give
her number
to me. And I heard the pause.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I guess.
And she's on speakerphone, so she can't really
She doesn't want to say no.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, you can just give her my number. That way, or whatever. Because, people don't know. A lot of people don't like to be set up on dates.
Right. I never did.
I personally am not a huge fan of blind dates. Because you just put yourself in a really uncomfortable situation, because if this person does not meet your physical expectations or emotional expectations or personality, spiritual, you're stuck there until the date's over. So it's just like a period of time that's super uncomfortable. I do recommend if you are going to go on a blind date, make sure you go with another couple or two.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the best way to do it.
You know, when I'd go out on a blind date, I'd always make it lunch because I only had an hour that I had to see this individual, and then I had to go back to work.
Well, yeah.
You know, it felt safe to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. A public place. Look, we are out of time.
We are.
That happened last week or 2 weeks ago. Ran out of time, just like that. So we could sit here and talk about this all day long.
Yeah, we could put on an entire show all day long if we had the opportunity. But
Right.
you know, Matt probably has to go someplace.
You know, I got some stuff to do today. Plus, it's pretty stormy, so I won't be riding my bike. But anyways, yeah, we're out of time.
But we've had an enjoyable conversation. Thank you for everybody who's popped in and told us hello this morning. But be safe out there in all your relationships. If you haven't noticed, the world's getting a lot scarier and a lot meaner.
And a lot crazier.
And so protect yourself.
Yep.
And, you know, lean on the Lord to give you, and the Holy Spirit to give you guidance about those individuals you come in contact with.
That's right.
You know, you need that guidance. So anyway, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye, everybody.